Brittany. I think we're ready to get started. We're just waiting for a couple more people. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. Please make sure to join the Google Hangout link if you haven't already. We're just going to wait a couple minutes. Give it about 5 minutes before we get started. Oh, great. I see a couple people joined. Please continue. Oh, there we go. Hey, Ryan. How are you?
Doing well, Melissa. How are you?
Good. So I'll let you get started.
Sure. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the What Your Software Engineering Candidates Won't Tell You webinar, brought to you by the Tech Connection. Please be sure to close your office door, turn down your music, plug in some headphones. You're not going to want to miss any of this important information. Grab a piece of paper and pen. We'll be ready to start in just about 5 minutes. While we're waiting, please introduce yourself in the chat. Your first name and where you're from. All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Ryan Johnson. I'm the Partnerships Manager at the Tech Connection. I'll be moderating today's discussion. We've only got an hour blocked off for this call, and we want to make sure you have an opportunity to ask all of the questions that you want to. So we're just going to hop right in. We've turned on the Q&A feature in the Hangout, so please go ahead and ask any questions that you may have. Before we get started, I want to just thank you all for joining us today. We really appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to chat with us. Have you ever had a hard time getting a tech candidate to respond to your emails? Have you ever wondered how to make your company stand out to a techie who received several recruiter emails in one day? Our goal is to help you better understand what your tech candidates think and feel when they are applying for your organization. Much of this talk will be particularly focused on technical applicants and methods that your organization can use to encourage applicants to apply. We've all had times where we want an applicant, but in a competitive market, it's hard to get their attention. Today, you'll learn how tech recruitment differs from other recruiting, how to gain the interest of a software engineer, how to make your company stand out in a quick email, interviewing questions you must ask. And without further ado, building an all-star technical team is something our guest speaker, Melissa James, CEO and founder of the Tech Connection, has done time and time again successfully. Melissa has a strong track record of building high-performing teams for elite companies such as Google, RA Capital, Teradata, and Sample6. Melissa possesses a strong passion for recruitment and is an essential player in recruiting. She built amazing recruiting processes that are scalable and focused on leveraging the right tools to allow us to secure top talent in a competitive marketplace. In short, Melissa has helped businesses go from early startup days to high-growth organizations. Melissa has been recognized as a woman on the move by Boston Business Journal. She recently received the U.S. Presidential Service Award for her relentless commitment to the community. She started her work at a small startup company and was later asked to work in Google's people operations as a technical recruiter and noticed that she had trouble with engineering candidates in particular. In response, she and her colleagues set out to interview applicants during their application process to see what they were thinking and feeling to better understand how to approach them. Today, she's going to be sharing all of her findings with us in this webinar. Please join me in welcoming Melissa James, CEO and founder of the Tech Connection.
Yay! Thank you so much, Ryan. I really appreciate that lovely introduction. She sounds awesome. I love that girl. She sounds like a great person, and I'm sure she had some really great insights. Well, obviously that was really sweet of you to say, but it's been honestly a really long road of really understanding a little bit more about how to find the right technical candidates. As Ryan mentioned, I started my career working at a small startup. We were this tiny little company, and we were a spin out from MIT and BU. We were about 7 people, and we were looking to grow what we thought were as one of the most amazing teams there was. We were super excited about our mission, super excited about the work that we were doing, and we needed to recruit. Actually, at that time, engineering was something that I really knew very little about. I had recently just graduated from college. I was still kind of learning more about myself, and I just really wasn't sure how to go about it. So as I ventured out looking for more talent to join our team, I would send these what I thought were really great emails like, hey, oh my gosh, come and work at this cool new startup. We've got awesome benefits. We've got 3 weeks vacation. We'll cover all of your health insurance. We'll make sure that you're happy and that you're working on a project that, one, is going to have a huge impact, and you'll love it. Come and talk to us here at Sample 6. And what we found was that, well, one, nobody really knew who we were, so we needed to increase our brand awareness, and that was something that was really important for us. So during those times, sometimes we wouldn't get responses from candidates. They wouldn't be interested in what we were saying or what we were doing, and it was just really challenging to really think about how can we be creative about recruiting new talent to our team. It was something that it took a little while for us to really understand and really hone in on, but after a while we were able to figure it out. I then went and worked for Google, where we had quite the reverse problem, where essentially we had tons of people that were flooding our doors looking to apply for positions, but maybe they might not be the right fit, or they haven't, acquired enough work experience at that time. How do we find and figure out which talent is the right talent for our company? So as we went through this process, I realized that, as much as recruitment is about the development of the company, it really is about how you make your candidates feel, and how to really engage them through the process so that they want to come to their company, so that they want to show you their best skill set. And I realized that we weren't really asking that during our interview process. We were just, sending out mass messages, sending out templated messages, and that's just not how engineers like to be recruited. And as I went through this process, I decided to go and survey them and to learn a little bit more about what they liked, what was it like on their side, I guess, of the email. And I was really curious to learn. So as I kind of put together this information, I went out and interviewed over 50 software engineers, asking them about their experience. And from that, I've now developed our own recruitment process that we use time and time again, one that's been written about in the Bay State Banner and Bloomberg Business and in the Boston Herald. I've even gotten a chance to have Harvard Business School reach out to me as a way to replicate my model and to replicate my business. So it's been something that, one, I'm really grateful for, and I'm really happy and I'm really excited to share my insights with you. So in terms of technical recruitment, just thinking about how does it differ than all other types of recruitment? I'm sure folks out there are recruiting for many different types of roles. You're looking for sales, you're looking for marketing, you're looking for so many different types of people to help you grow your business. However, tech recruiting is very different, and it requires a very different type of tactic to getting candidates interested in your job opportunity. Why is that? It's because in tech specifically, there's a less than 2% unemployment rate, which means that a lot of our candidates are happy in their job, they're content, they're not really looking for new opportunities. They're usually getting a very good compensation package, great vacation time. So to lure them away, you really do have to think strategically about how you approach them. The other thing that we realize is that when you are sending out these really great messages to your candidates, candidates are actually getting over 50 emails a day from various recruiters that are messaging them, that are telling them hey, would love for you to come and work at this job opportunity. Are you interested? They get tons of emails. In fact, what our engineers told us is that they have specific email addresses that they use just for recruitment, that they put just on their resume. And oftentimes those emails are going to an inbox that they never check until they're ready to look on the market. So sometimes your email might not even be going into their inbox. So it definitely was something that I realized was important. I was always wondering, how come we're not getting any response? Was it my email? Was it me? But actually, it wasn't. It's just how they handle the volume of employers that are reaching out to them. So when as a software engineer, you're getting all of these messages, at some point, all of these messages start to seem like a blur. It seems like every company has 3 weeks vacation and every company has great compensation. And what it really comes down to are a couple of key differences that will really make an engineer think oh, maybe I should give this some time and really learn a little bit more about this particular opportunity. But before we hop in, I just want to make sure that I pause for just a second to see if we have any questions, as I really want to tell you all the things that we learned from our survey and how to gain the interest of a software engineer. Are there any questions right now?
Yeah, I've got one for you right now.
Cool.
Or I guess it's kind of a two-parter, but how do you identify the right fit for your team? What qualities and characteristics should you look for as the leader?
Oh, that's a great question. And if I can defer, I'll defer a little bit more, because once you kind of gain the interest, I'd be happy to tell you a little bit more about figuring out the right culture as we go to the second part. So if it's possible, I'd love to hold on. And if you can remind me, Ryan, I'd love to answer that question a little bit later on when we talk about interviewing questions that you must ask.
Sure.
Cool. Great. So thank you so much for that question. Please continue to ask questions through this. I want this to be as informative and as helpful as it can be. So when we kind of go back to thinking about how to get that initial interest from a software engineer, I realized that as we went out, we surveyed a ton of them. They're getting over 50 emails in their inbox on a regular basis. What I found was that actually it was really important, not just to talk about your compensation package or anything of that nature, but to really talk about the mission of your organization. Is your company out there saving the world, thinking about ways to improve food safety? Then let's talk about that. Let that be your lead. Let that be the thing that really resonates with them. Explaining the overall mission could be something that an engineer is really passionate about and that they might want to work on. If your company is creating a healthcare tool, or if they're creating something that can help improve transportation, there are so many different ways that technology can be applied to different industries. So if your particular company is working on a mission that could have a huge impact in the world, they love impact, and that's what's going to get their attention. So using that as an opportunity, leading with your mission is a great way to make sure that you're getting the attention of the right people. Because once you get the mission once they understand the mission that you're doing, and if they're interested in that mission, you're already starting to find that right kind of culture fit. Someone that's passionate about your team, someone that's excited about the work that you're doing. I think finding and leading with that information is the most important part of generating the interest of any software engineer and any type of candidate that's coming to your company. What I also found is that many of us write job subject lines in our emails as, exciting opportunity at the Tech Connection, exciting job at Include, great opportunity at Noir Nutrition. There are so many different ways that we try to write our subject lines, but what I found was that making it a question was more of an interesting way for them to open it. It's just like, any other form of marketing material. Are you passionate about ending world hunger? Are you passionate about creating software to improve health and fitness? Are you passionate about improving new ways for buses to go through the city? Like, there's so many different questions that can really get someone thinking. You just never know what their passion might be. So using a question in the subject line is something that I find to be very successful in getting candidates to respond. So really just thinking about how you can ask questions to get them to even open the email is half the battle. And then when we kind of get into the meat of what you're talking about inside your email, we already discussed, making sure that you mention your mission, but sometimes I like to change up the email. Why not talk about the management team that you have on your team? Why not mention who is your CTO and who is your chief technology officer? Let's mention those things. What have they done in their career? Because as we know, in the tech industry, there is no rule book. In many ways, becoming a great developer comes from the manager that you work for. So making sure that you're able to communicate like, hey, we have our CTO is a former engineer from fill in the blank, Google, PayPal, eBay, Twitter, Facebook. Those are really cool things that people really appreciate in 2015 to help them differentiate and see if this is going to be an exciting opportunity for them to move forward. And then lastly, as you're going through and you write out this beautiful email, you send it out, we're crossing our fingers going, please respond, please respond. We want to hear back from these engineers. What I found is that any response is better than no response. Sometimes they might just send a quick, hey, you know what, not on the market right now. That's totally okay. Sometimes they might respond, cool, call me anytime, period. That totally is okay. It's normal. That's exactly what they're going to do. They're very short, very to the point. And sometimes that's just the way that it works. If you want to follow up with them and get their attention, that already means that they're interested. And it's very different where in other particular industries, they might write a nice email like, hi, Melissa, how are you? Thanks for reaching out. Glad that you reached out to me about this opportunity. I would love to chat with you more. Here's a specific time to call me. Some tech candidates are not like that. Cool, give me a call, period. It's totally fine. they're not annoyed, they're actually interested, and they actually do want to hear about your opportunity, and they're giving you permission to give them a call. And I think it's a great opportunity for someone to follow up and not take it personally. They do want to hear more about different job opportunities that excite them. So great. So I'm going to take a quick break there and see if there are any other questions that are in the Hangout now. And if not, I can just keep going.
Cool. It looks like we've got one old question and one new question. I'm going to go with the new one first.
Sure.
So before you are to interview someone, like when you have to decide between cost and experience, which area are you most willing to sacrifice if you don't have the funds?
So between cost and experience is always a really interesting question to kind of think about. Every company goes through it. And it really depends. Well, let's kind of think through this. And I love to kind of share this insight, because if you're new to hiring, I think it's important for you to understand the difference. So if you're thinking about cost, maybe you only have $40,000 to spend. Okay, well, $40,000 is going to be really tough for you to get the right type of technical talent for your team, because that's actually lower than what an entry level software engineer would make. So what you would have to do is decide, well, I have $40,000. Where is the development of my software right now? Do I need to hire a software engineer full time right now? Could I hire a development firm to help us with that same $40,000? How far could that money go? Could it help us develop our MVP? Could it help us do a couple of iterations over the next 6 months? Really thinking about how capital can still get you to the same end goal that you're looking to accomplish, but utilizing different resources is important. So if I were to pick one, I would think strategically about what is the objective that you're looking to accomplish, and how can these funds be used appropriately. I think more and more I'm seeing a lot of employers choosing, hey, maybe I need to just hire a contractor to help knock this out. So if I'm a small startup, I'm thinking about hiring. What I'm going to do is say, hey, you know what? I've got $40,000. I want to build an MVP. I'm not really looking for a full-time employee quite yet. I need to prove myself. I need to prove my minimal viable product. So what I'll do is instead hire a development firm, or I'll hire an experienced consultant that we take on for 6, 8, 10, 12 weeks and use that capital so that we can essentially knock out what we need to get done pretty quickly with someone who's more seasoned, more experienced. And then as we start to really grow and scale, then I would change my perspective. So if I were to think about, now we've gone through, we've built our MVP, how do I want to build my team? I always think the hardest hire is actually finding the most senior person. So I would actually start with one senior person and then hire other junior developers to learn from them. I think that's a great way to think about cost and experience, and then also correlating it back to the business objective that you're looking to accomplish. Cool.
Alrighty, and then we got that other question that I think should be a nice segue. How do you identify the right fit for your team when you're doing an interview? What qualities and characteristics are you looking for as the leader?
Sure. So I think that as you're going through the process of interviewing, and this is a great segue, and I'd be happy to answer it as we go through it. When you're looking for quality traits, you're really looking for those leadership capabilities that really should have been installed a long time ago, or integrated a long time ago. The ability to really work well during an interview process, and the willingness to actually go through and kind of showcase what they know in a way that makes it interesting, in a way that makes it seem like they genuinely enjoy teaching, and they aren't condescending. So for me, those are some of the key attributes that I look for when I talk to a software engineer, because I think that those show real leadership capabilities. As an engineer, you never know who they might be talking to. They might need to talk to the CTO. They might need to talk to the chief marketing officer. They're going to liaison between many different areas of the business, and you want to make sure that they're having productive and enlightening conversation. So I think those communication skills are really important. And I look for that and screen for that pretty hard during our phone interviews. So actually, this is a great segue to talk a little bit more about like what are some of the questions that we need to ask as we go through the interview process. So for many of us, as we interview other software engineers, we kind of look at what we all call their alphabet soup, right? It's that component of their resume that says technical skills, and then there's a long alphabet soup of different programming languages: HTML, CSS, Java, JavaScript, Angular.js, Bootstrap, Node.js. There are so many different languages that are listed in this one component of their resume. You don't even know where to start, but you maybe saw one of them that is core to the business that you guys have right now. So what do you do then? You go through, and I think it's really important to ask this very simple question. Are you proficient in programming language XXX, whatever it is that you want to call it? Java, Ruby, Pascal, Scala, whatever it is, like make sure that you actually ask that question. Oftentimes we think that because it's listed on their resume, they know this programming language in and out. And that's simply not the case. Programming languages are just like learning any new language, just like learning Spanish. I learned Spanish in high school. Yeah, I might be able to kind of get around with Spanish if I were to be in a Spanish-speaking country. However, if I don't use Spanish every day and I don't speak it every day, I'm going to be a little rusty on it. So it's really important to ask if they're proficient in programming languages. And if they are, when was the last time that they used it? Can they walk you through a project that they've done before using that programming language? What was the advantage of using that programming language over another programming language? I think those kind of conversations are great. I think it's helpful to understand whether or not they have a personality. Do they have an idea about why they use one programming language over another? Do they have an opinion? Are they passionate about the types of programming languages that they use to build new software? That's the type of stuff that I look for in an interview and in a response. If they're passionate about it, they were like, oh, it was so cool. I used Ruby and I created this really neat website and it was super helpful because the client wanted something that was more dynamic and it was something that I needed to really think about. And I figured that if I just wrote it in Ruby, it could help us get to that end goal. That's a great answer. I want to hear your thought process and I want to hear your drive and your passion for choosing a particular programming language over another. So I think it's really important to make sure that they have a particular passion behind what they're doing and not, and they're able to articulate that as we go through it. So I think, asking, are you proficient in a particular programming language? How did you use it at your current company or your past project? Describe your project in detail to me. How did you do it? What did you learn? And lastly, what was your experience like? If you were to do it all over again, how would you go about doing it? So really making sure that you ask them to see if they were paying attention during this process. And the last part is really understanding at what component of the development were they a part of? Were they only a part of creating the front end development? Did they do deployment? Did they make sure it was actually physically live? Whether it's in the app store or whether it's live on a website, asking those questions is really important to kind of see where did this engineer fit in at their previous company and what skill set can they bring to our team. So these are all really important questions that you want to dig into during your phone interview because you want to know more specifically what they've done, what areas they might need more support in, and what areas they'll be able to really take ownership over and be able to bring to your company. Cool. Any other questions at this time, Ryan?
Yep, we've got two more for you.
Cool.
How do you get people invested if you can't pay them up front?
That's always a really difficult one. Getting people invested is really hard. And that's where it comes again back to your mission. I think that when you're a small business and you're trying to get started, getting them invested is really about you as the entrepreneur getting really excited about what you're doing and really showing them that when they join your team, that you're going to take what they've contributed and take it to the next level. So oftentimes, when I'm thinking about ways to find new talent at a time when your company's small, you don't have a lot of money, I think that it's really important. Say what you can afford. Maybe you might not be able to afford $40,000, but say what you can afford. Set up small projects that they work on so that you're being very clear about what projects that need to get done so that they can tell you whether or not they're capable of doing it and if they have the bandwidth and the time so that it's very clear what's about to happen and give it a deadline. Maybe it's 3 months, maybe it's 6 months, but really making sure that you have a very open as you try to take more people onto your team is extremely important. And I do think that no matter how small your team is, finding ways to find some type of way to compensate them. There are many different ways that you can go about it, whether it's in cash, whether it's in stock options. There are many ways that a small company can be flexible with working with new talent. So I would definitely make sure that you can go through and find ways to engage them and make them really feel ownership of this project. This company cannot be anything without other people working on your team. So really being able to encourage them and empower them is really important.
Alrighty. And lastly, how do you know when it's time to like go ahead and fire someone?
Oh, that's always a really tricky spot. If you have to go through the unfortunate process of having to let somebody go, I really hope that you don't have to, but it does happen in every company. I think it's really important to have the conversation first. As an HR professional, I think you should always give your employee an opportunity to explain what happened. So as a CEO, sometimes you wonder, you're trying to take on so much, you have so many projects that are on your plate. I always think it's important to go back to your employee and have a conversation with them. Ask them what are some of the challenges that are going on. How are they feeling supported? Are they feeling overwhelmed? You simply don't know unless you ask. So having that conversation first gives them an opportunity to kind of voice their opinion, voice any frustrations that they're going through, and then gives you an opportunity to essentially see if maybe it's about structuring the team better, maybe it's about alleviating certain projects, and it gives you some opportunities to figure out an improvement plan. So oftentimes during that conversation, you'll hear from the employee, and then it's up to the employer to say, okay, maybe this is what our plan of action will be moving forward. Oftentimes, employers will create a performance improvement plan that details over the next 4 weeks. Here's our play-by-play. This is exactly what we expect to get done. This is what you should do. This is what I should do. And then be able to really understand, what are the overall objectives and how can we work well together? Because at the end of the day, you do want to make sure that your employees are happy. And if they're leaving and they have to go through this transition, you do want to give them a fair shot. And this is what's required by law. It's also what's required as like just being a really good business owner and being a really great employer. People want to have these conversations with you and they want to know that you at least gave it a fair shot, because what you don't want is to have a horrible experience and then they go on Glassdoor and write terrible things about your company, because then it's going to be even harder to do this recruitment process, because so many candidates go through and they will check your Glassdoor reviews. They will check to see what other employees said about you, and you do not want to have any negative reviews on there. You really want to make sure that you're giving opportunities for feedback. In fact, we found that 95% of our candidates that we interviewed said that they want feedback from their employer. So finding ways to integrate some sort of feedback is extremely important as you're going through this process. And in fact, that's actually something that the Tech Connection is working on right now, is making it easy for our employers to be able to give specific feedback to their candidates so that their candidates feel like their employers were vested in them, or the companies that they were interviewing were vested in them and actually cared about their approach and actually cared about the time that they took to interview at this company. So that's something that I would definitely stress time and time again, is making sure that you give your employees feedback, making sure that you give candidates feedback. That is something that will set you apart from other employers. 95% of candidates wanted feedback. Anything else, Ryan?
Nope, that's all we've got for questions.
Cool. Well, as we mentioned, guys, like, I'm so happy to share this information with you. We went out and surveyed tons of software engineers asking for their feedback on what they wish employers would know and would take into consideration. Now, this might seem like a lot of work for you. It might even seem overwhelming for you. But what we want you to know is that you don't have to do this by yourself. We can sit down and help you go through this process. We've reached out to thousands of engineers, some of the best in the nation, that now work at Google and have worked at really great companies. We are happy to sit down and really help you get to the mission of your organization, getting more talent into your pipeline. 70% of the companies that we've worked with, they hire 70% of the candidates that we present. Why is that? Because they found candidates that truly love their mission and that are excited about the projects that they're working on. It is easier to work with people that are of the mindset of you. They want to see your company succeed. They want to be able to take your company to the next level. Those are the types of candidates that you want in your pipeline. It's not always about the quantity, but it's also about the quality of the candidate that you have. Our clients say, the tech connection was extremely thorough and thoughtful. Some of our clients really weren't sure exactly how to approach this conversation. They weren't sure how to get more people to come to their team, and they found it stressful. It doesn't need to be stressful. This should be fun. You're telling people about what you love and what you're passionate about and what you're working on. So if you need help, please give us a call. Send an email to Ryan at partnerships@techconnectioninc.com. We'd be happy to set up an initial assessment with you to make sure that you're getting the right types of candidates in your pipeline. We can make sure that you're sending out the right messages that are interesting and will get you the type of feedback that you want. In this market, it is too tight. Less than 2% of candidates are unemployed, and you want to make sure that you make the right impression the first time. Thank you so much for joining. This is Melissa James from the Tech Connection and Ryan Johnson. Thank you so much. And if you have any other questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us.